Let's be honest for a moment. No contact was your first real power move. But if you believe silence is the end of the story, you're mistaken. What comes after that silence is what truly haunts the narcissist. This isn't about payback or trying to hurt anyone. This is about rising above. Because the moment you shift your energy, stop chasing, and finally choose yourself, that's when it hits the narcissist the hardest. You already claimed a victory the moment you went silent. Sit with that truth for a second. Choosing no contact isn't just some emotional trick or temporary strategy, it's a strong decision rooted deeply in self respect. It's the moment you stopped begging, stopped explaining yourself over and over, stopped hoping they would suddenly see your value. You chose peace instead of confusion. That choice is not weakness. That choice is strength. Silence isn't empty at all. Silence is full of meaning. It says, I will no longer take part in my own mistreatment. And when you go silent, it forces the narcissist to sit with what they lost. Not because you wanted to punish them, but because you finally chose to protect and heal yourself. When you're always reaching out, checking in, justifying your emotions, or trying to be understood, you're handing your value to someone who was never willing or able to give it back to you. That's draining. That's exhausting. It traps you in a cycle where your worth feels like it's on trial every single day. But the second you stop feeding that cycle, the second you pull your energy back, the silence becomes your loudest message. It's you saying, I'm done shrinking myself just to stay connected. That shift, that inner change, doesn't just affect you, it affects the narcissist too. It plants a quiet seed of curiosity, of discomfort, of regret, a thought that says, wait, what just happened? And let's be real, no contact is not easy. It's not like flipping a switch and suddenly forgetting someone you care deeply about. It takes strength to feel the urge to text and still say, I choose not to. It takes discipline to see an old memory surface, feel that sharp wave of nostalgia, and still honor your boundary. That's real courage. That's emotional maturity. Most people never reach this point because they're afraid of what the silence might bring up. But you faced it, you sat in the discomfort, and what you discovered on the other side wasn't emptiness, it was clarity. Clarity about what you deserve, clarity about how much you tolerated, clarity about who you are becoming now. Now you're standing at a turning point. You created space, and now that space needs to be filled. Not with the narcissist, not with meaningless distractions, but with intention. Because the truth is, no contact is only the beginning of your comeback. The real change happens when you decide to stop defining yourself by what broke you. You already reclaimed your voice through silence. Now it's about using that quiet space to build something stronger, something untouchable. Your confidence, your peace, your future. And the more you focus on that, the more magnetic you become. Energy never lies. And when a narcissist feels that you've leveled up without them, that's what truly haunts them. Not your words, not your absence alone, your growth. Most people don't realize that silence is not passive. Silence is active. It's a conscious choice to disengage from anything that diminishes your worth. You didn't just disappear, you evolved, you took back your emotional space, and that alone is a massive shift in power. Because when you stop reacting, you become unpredictable. And when you're unpredictable, you become unforgettable. Not because you played mind games, but because you refused to stay a piece in someone else's game. If you've gone no contact, understand this clearly. You already made a brave and powerful decision. You interrupted a toxic pattern. You gave yourself room to breathe, to think, to realign your life. You did what most people are too afraid to do. You stopped chasing validation and started choosing self-respect. That is not a small achievement. That is a foundational change. And now, with that silence holding steady, you're ready for what comes next. Not to get the narcissist back, but to move forward as the force you are becoming. The narcissist doesn't miss you simply because you're gone. They miss the impact you had. And that's the part most people misunderstand. It's not about physical presence, it's about emotional energy. The way you made them feel understood, the way you held space for their chaos without demanding anything in return, the way your presence brought calm to storms they never admitted existed. That's what lingers. That's what stays. People don't remember every word you said, but they never forget how you made them feel. And if you showed up with care, empathy, and consistency, your absence will hit deeply. You didn't just walk away. You removed a mirror that reflected the best parts of the narcissist back to them, even when they couldn't see it themselves. And now they're left facing silence. And silence doesn't lie. Silence reflects the void. It exposes the gap between who they were when they had access to you and who they are now without you. That realization doesn't come all at once. At first, there's denial. They tell themselves they're fine, that they're better off, that you were too sensitive or too much. But time has a way of stripping away ego. Time reveals truth. And with time, the memory of you doesn't fade. It sharpens. When someone has constant access to your love, your patience, your emotional support, they often stop appreciating it. It becomes familiar, expected, taken for granted. But once it's gone, that's when they notice all the quiet things you used to do. The messages, the encouragement, the understanding, the emotional safety. That realization lingers. It haunts. Not because you were perfect, but because you were present. In a world full of half-effort connections, your consistency was rare, and losing something that real is not easy to replace. The narcissist doesn't just miss the fact that you stopped reaching out. They miss the version of themselves that felt stronger when you were around. They miss the emotional weight you carried. They miss the confidence you poured into them when life felt heavy. And deep down, they sense they may never experience that again. Not because it's impossible, but because not everyone loves the way you loved. Not everyone shows up the way you did, fully, honestly, deeply. And it's that depth that stays with them, not the silence itself, but what existed behind that silence. We don't miss people who blend into the background. We miss those who leave a mark, those who change the emotional temperature of a room, those whose presence feels like home. You were that whether the narcissist admitted it or not. And now that you're gone, what they feel is lack, emptiness, the echo of something that once was. That's what haunts them. And it's not only about what they lost, it's about who they are without you. You were light in a space they never learned to light on their own. And now they're sitting in that darkness, realizing the glow didn't come from them, it came from you. That kind of realization doesn't disappear with time. It grows stronger, especially when they see you rising, rebuilding, and moving forward without looking back. That's when it fully clicks. It was never about attention, it was about impact. You didn't just pass through their life, you changed it. And that kind of presence doesn't vanish, it echoes, it lingers, it haunts. Your comeback is not about revenge. It's about embodying what they lost. That's the real power shift. Because the moment your focus is on proving something to the narcissist, you're still giving them your energy. And that's not healing. That's performance. Real power comes when you're so grounded, so rooted in yourself that you no longer miss what you had with them. That's the real glow up. It's not just a new look or a new routine. It's a new energy, a new mindset, a new way you speak to yourself. It's realizing that your value was never about how well you loved the narcissist. It's about how deeply you learn to love yourself after being hurt. When you stop seeing the breakup as something you need to recover from and start seeing it as something that revealed what you were settling for, everything changes. That's when your energy shifts. And healed energy is magnetic. Whether the narcissist admits it or not, they feel it. People feel when you stop carrying them in your heart. They feel when your happiness no longer depends on their presence. That's what shakes them. You don't need revenge because true healing doesn't need an audience. Real growth is quiet. It doesn't need to be announced, but it does radiate. And that quiet, confident glow is exactly what haunts a narcissist after no contact. It walks into a room before you do. It shows up in the way you speak to yourself, in the way you hold your boundaries, in the way you stop over explaining, over giving, and overthinking. That inner shift changes everything. You are no longer moving from a place of lack or fear. You are moving from a place of abundance and self respect. And that is what the narcissist never expected. The narcissist believed you would always stay, always orbit around their emotional availability, always wait for crumbs and call it love. They never imagined you would stand up, wake up, and evolve. And maybe for a long time you didn't think you would either. Maybe you stayed longer than you should have. Maybe you lost yourself trying to understand, trying to fix, trying to hold on. But that was the lesson. That was the wake-up call you needed. And now that you have answered it, you are no longer the same person. You are not waiting for the narcissist to come back around. You are not hoping they suddenly realize your worth because you have already realized it yourself. You understand the value of your time, your energy, your purpose, and your peace. And when you truly step into that awareness, it creates a ripple effect. People feel it when your energy upgrades. They may not know exactly what changed, but they sense it. And the narcissist senses it too. They may scroll past your page, and it will not be the pictures that disturb them. It will be the calm in your eyes, the strength in your posture, the silence that says you no longer need explanations or closure because you gave that to yourself. That is power. Real power does not chase, it does not beg, it does not try to prove anything, it does not plan revenge. Power simply radiates. That calm, unbothered, grounded energy is what forces the narcissist to sit alone with their own thoughts. That is what makes them reflect. Not because you are trying to make them regret anything, but because regret is a natural result of losing someone who brought peace into their life and then found even greater peace without them. That is the real comeback, not the version where you show them what they lost, but the version where you become so whole, so aligned, so focused on your life that you barely recognize the person you once were, and the narcissist does not recognize you either. Because the person you are becoming is not haunted. She is centered. She is clear. She is grounded. She is moving forward. And that light, that calm strength, that is what they lost. The mind remembers energy more than words. You can say the right things. You can write the perfect final message. You can explain yourself with grace and emotion. But what truly stays with someone is the energy you carried, the tone you spoke with, the presence you brought, the feeling they experienced when they were around you. That emotional imprint stays long after the messages are gone and the conversations have ended. It was never about what you said. It was about how you made them feel when you said it. And when you choose no contact, what remains is not just silence. What remains is the energy of that final shift. The moment your emotional posture changed. The moment something inside you finally moved. When someone has been used to your warmth, your understanding, your empathy, your constant availability, and then that energy disappears, it does not go unnoticed. It is like walking into a room that once held a familiar scent, something comforting, something grounding, and now there is nothing but still air. That emotional temperature change hits deeply. Your energy was a constant, even when you were tired, even when you were explaining yourself over and over, even when you were giving more than you received. And now that energy is no longer there to soften their discomfort or fill the empty space. That absence becomes loud, louder than any message you could have sent. People may forget the details, they may forget the arguments, they may even forget specific words, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And if you gave freely, if you were their emotional safe space, the one who saw through their defenses, the one who didn't judge them when they were lost or unsure, then your energy left a mark. Whether they admit it or not, it lives in their memory. When that kind of presence disappears, it creates space for reflection. And that reflection does not always feel peaceful. Often it feels uncomfortable because now they must face the void. They must sit in the space where your energy once lived. The silence you leave behind is not empty. It carries meaning. It carries the final echo of who you were when you gave your best and the turning point when you chose yourself. That is what hits hardest because no contact is not just about stopping communication. It is about becoming emotionally unavailable to someone who relied on your presence without valuing it. Your energy anchored them, even when they pulled away, even when they did not show up. They always assumed you were still there, still connected, still holding emotional space for them. And now that tie is gone, not from anger, not from bitterness, but from strength. This is where regret begins to grow, not because they lost your words, but because they lost your light, your patience, your belief in their potential, your willingness to stay. That is not something easily replaced. It is not just another person or another conversation. It was a feeling, a sense of safety, a sense of grounding. That is what they miss. They miss the way their nervous system calmed when you entered the room. They miss the way your presence brought clarity even when they felt lost. And now they search for that feeling in others who cannot provide it. Because energy cannot be copied, it cannot be forced, it cannot be faked. That is why your silence speaks louder than any goodbye ever could. Energy always tells the truth. When you shift your energy, when you stop chasing, stop overgiving, stop breaking yourself to hold someone else together, that change is felt. It causes the narcissist to replay moments in their mind. They start wondering when things changed, when you stopped reaching out, when your tone shifted, when your warmth faded. It was not one sentence or one event. It was the slow withdrawal of something they took for granted, and that is what stays with them. Growth that happens in silence is louder than any closure you thought you needed. When you choose no contact, many people expect a dramatic ending. They expect apologies, tears, sudden realizations. But real healing rarely looks like that. Real healing is quiet. It happens in the moments when you choose not to reach out, when you feel the urge to explain yourself one last time and decide not to, when you realize their validation was never the reward, your peace was. That is when the real transformation begins. Healing does not need attention.